picture this. You are, a highly successful business leader, and you're getting ready to retire.
Right, you've put in the time.
Exactly. Decades of blood, sweat, and tears pouring into this company from the ground up, and sitting right there on your mahogany desk, wrapped in this beautiful leather binder, is a shiny legal document.
Oh, I know that binder well.
Right. It names your successor. It lays out a precise financial timeline. It has all the right signatures from all the right lawyers. You go to sleep that night completely at peace, thinking, well, my legacy is perfectly secure.
Yeah, it's a great feeling. Until it isn't.
Because then the actual day of the transition arrives. And the whole thing just crashes and burns. The biggest clients start leaving, the leadership team fractures, the successor is completely overwhelmed, and your revenue absolutely tanks. Why? Because you made one fatal mistake. You confused a piece of paper with actual readiness.
It's a devastatingly common trap. I mean, I see it constantly. And the real tragedy is that the failure doesn't actually happen on the day the transition takes place.
Wait, what do you mean? It doesn't happen on transition day?
No, no. The failure happens months or even years earlier. It happens at the exact moment the organization stops doing the hard, messy work of preparing simply because they feel protected by that fancy leather binder you mentioned.
Wow. Okay, and that dynamic, that exact trap, is what we are unpacking in today's deep dive. We are looking at the critical and, frankly, often misunderstood difference between succession planning and succession preparation.
It is a massive difference.
It really is. Our mission today is to get to the bottom of what actually makes a business transfer ready. Because right now, so many business owners are operating under this really dangerous illusion. Think of it like this. It's like buying a gym membership and meticulously writing out a workout schedule.
Oh, that's a perfect way to put it.
Yeah, you get the card, it feels great, you tell your friends, hey, I'm getting in shape. But succession preparation is actually going to the gym and lifting the heavy weight so you don't completely collapse on game day.
I would actually take that gym analogy a step further. Because buying the membership doesn't just feel good, it actually gives you a false sense of security.
Oh, totally. You feel like you did the work.
Exactly. You feel like you've already accomplished something, which paradoxically makes you, less likely to put in the real work. If we look at the core mechanics of a transition, planning asks a very specific structural question. It asks, who takes over?
Right. Who's the person?
Right. It is purely about identification and timing. But preparation asks a much harder, much more grounded question. Can that person actually run the business, retain the clients, and lead the team when the founder is no longer in the room?
So if the goal is to be completely transfer ready, why do so many smart, incredibly capable founders just stop at the planning phase? I mean, they spend tens of thousands of dollars on consultants to build these plans, but then they just stop. What is the psychological block there?
Well, the allure of planning is incredibly strong because it masquerades as progress.
Masquerades as progress.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, because when you plan, you are documenting timelines, you're establishing legal structures, figuring out tax frameworks. And for a seasoned executive, that is comfortable, analytical work.
It's what they do best.
Exactly. It checks a mental box that allows the current leader to say, okay, the future is handled, and then they go right back to their day-to-day operations. Planning assumes readiness. It does not verify it.
But let me push back here for a second. If I'm a founder, handing over real authority to, quote-unquote, prepare my successor feels like gambling with my life's work.
Sure, it feels terrifying.
Right. If I let my successor make high-stakes decisions today, and they fail, my retirement fund goes down the drain. Why shouldn't I keep absolute control until the very last day just to protect the asset? I mean, isn't a solid plan the safest first step?
You absolutely need the plan. I mean, think of it as the map. You have to have it.
Okay.
But the map doesn't tell you if the successor's vehicle actually has an engine.
Oh, wow.
The fear of losing control is totally valid, but you really have to consider the alternative. You are choosing between allowing a controlled failure while you are still in the building to mentor them and fix it.
Right, because you're there to catch them.
Exactly, versus risking a catastrophic failure the moment you leave. When a transition fails, people almost always blame the execution. They say, oh, the market shifted, or the new CEO just wasn't the right fit.
They make excuses.
Always. But the failure was actually baked in the very moment they confused planning the route with building the engine.
Confusing the map with the engine. That is such a crucial distinction. Okay, so if we have our map how do we actually build this engine? How do we build what is known in the industry as transferable capability?
Building that capability really comes down to 4 non-negotiable pillars.
Okay, let's hear them.
If you want to be transfer ready, you absolutely cannot skip any of them. So the first is leadership transferability, and this is fundamentally about testing authority in the real world.
Testing authority.
Right. It is very easy to draft a memo giving someone the title of president or managing partner. But have they actually navigated a crisis without you stepping in to save them?
Okay, I'm struggling with how that actually works day to day. You can't just walk out of the room during a massive supply chain crisis and tell your successor, well, good luck, let me know how it goes.
No, of course not. You don't walk out during an existential crisis, but you do create high-stakes sandboxes.
High-stakes sandboxes, like what?
Like allowing them to negotiate a mid-tier vendor contract or maybe make a crucial strategic hire entirely on their own. The employees and the clients, they need to see the successor actively leading.
It makes sense.
Because if the team is constantly looking over the successor's shoulder to read the founder's body language...
Oh, to see if the founder approves.
Exactly. If they are doing that, the leadership hasn't transferred at all.
Okay, so let's say you successfully navigate that. You let your successor handle the mid-tier contracts, but that exposes a massive hidden trap when it comes to the clients themselves.
It does.
Because if I'm the founder, my clients love me. I am the ultimate rainmaker. We go to dinner, we golf together, we know each other's kids. If I just step back, those clients are going to feel completely abandoned.
Which is exactly why pillar number 2 is relationship institutionalization.
That's a mouthful. Relationship institutionalization.
It is, but it's vital. If client relationships depend solely on one specific individual, a transition only transfers the business's legal structure. It does not transfer the revenue.
The revenue stays with the person.
Exactly. Client trust has to systematically shift from the individual rainmaker to the organization itself. The client needs to trust the firm, not just marry the founder.
But how do you actually do that? You can't just send an email saying, hey, Bob, I'm retiring, here's the new kid. That destroys the trust instantly.
Oh, yeah, that's a disaster. It requires a highly orchestrated, methodical phasing process, often over 18 to 24 months.
Wow, that long.
Yes, because it starts with a warm handoff where the successor simply joins the meetings. Then, over time, they begin leading the meetings while the founder just observes. But the real magic, the crucial psychological step, is when the founder actively gives the successor the credit for a major win.
Oh, interesting.
The founder has to look at the client and say, Mary was the genius behind this strategy. She caught something I totally missed. You are taking your halo of trust and deliberately placing it on your successor.
Transferring the halo. I love that. But wait, what happens when Mary has the client's trust, right? She's leading the meetings, and suddenly a highly complex, totally custom scenario comes up. She freezes because the formula for handling that specific scenario only lived in the founder's head.
Right.
The client gets frustrated and the trust breaks down anyway.
And that exact scenario highlights the absolute necessity of pillar number 3, which is knowledge continuity. Every successful business runs on a vast, completely invisible reservoir of undocumented wisdom.
Undocumented wisdom.
Yeah, it's the operational shortcuts, it's the quirks of specific vendors, the historical context of, why a certain strategy was chosen 5 years ago and why another one failed.
It's the secret sauce. And it's like trying to change out the hard drive while the computer's still running. You can't just hand someone the laptop. You actually have to systematically transfer the files.
Yes, and the problem is those files are rarely written down in standard operating procedures.
They're just in someone's brain.
Exactly. It's the mental models. I mean, I've seen transitions nearly collapse because a successor didn't know the unspoken rule that a major supplier always delivers 3 days late.
Oh, classic Bob and supply chain.
Right. So they didn't pad the production schedule, and a multi-million-dollar order completely fell through. Preparation requires structured, rigorous processes to extract that mental map from the outgoing leader's brain. It is definitely not just a 2-hour handoff meeting and a pat on the back.
And even if you do extract all that knowledge, I mean, who actually has the power to act on it? Because if Mary knows the pricing formula, but she still has to email the founder to get the final green light on a discount, nothing has really changed.
Exactly. And that friction is exactly why you need pillar number 4, governance independence.
Governance independence.
Yes. You have to establish decision-making structures that function completely independently of the current leader.
Let me give you a visual for this because I think everyone listening has experienced this exact bottleneck. If every significant decision in your company requires the current owner, if the entire business basically runs through one person's email inbox, where every department head is just sitting at their desk waiting on a reply so they can actually move forward.
It's maddening.
It is. That is not a transferable business.
A bottleneck is the absolute antithesis of transferable capability. Governance independence means there are documented decision rights. There are clear, functional escalation paths that do not just point back to the founder's desk.
Yeah.
The leaders who are staying must be authorized to act. Honestly, if the business cannot function at full capacity for a month while the owner is entirely off the grid, the business is planned, sure, but it is deeply unprepared.
Okay, so these 4 pillars, leadership transferability, relationship institutionalization, knowledge continuity, and governance independence. The theory is airtight. But I really want to know what this gap between planning and preparation actually looks like out in the wild.
Oh, it looks very different depending on where you are.
Right? Because the failure points have to look vastly different depending on the industry. It's not going to look the same for a family-owned manufacturing plant as it does for a high-end law firm.
The underlying mechanics are identical, but you're right, the symptoms vary wildly. So let's look at family businesses first.
Let's do it.
In a family enterprise, the planned state is usually pretty straightforward. The founder names their son or daughter as the successor, they pick a retirement date, and the lawyers draw up the shares transfer, and they feel completely secure.
But the prepared state is a much harsher reality, isn't it?
Vastly different. Because in a truly prepared family business, that successor hasn't just been given a fancy title or spent a few years shadowing the CEO.
Right.
They have actually run a P&L or an entire division independently. They have proven to the employees and, honestly, to themselves that they can generate profit without their parent acting as a safety net.
That's huge.
Furthermore, the family has done the grueling emotional work of having what we call the 5 critical conversations.
I like that.
Yeah. They have explicitly discussed roles, expectations, the mechanics of the exit, performance evaluation, and money.
I have to imagine the money and performance conversations are where holiday dinners get completely ruined.
Oh, they are incredibly fraught. Because how do you objectively evaluate your own child's performance?
You can't.
Right. Or how do you separate their compensation as a working executive from their distributions as a family shareholder? And what happens when one sibling works 80 hours a week in the business and the other doesn't work there at all?
That is a recipe for a massive fight.
Exactly. If a family has not navigated the immense friction of those specific conversations, the business is a ticking time bomb, no matter how beautiful that legal binder is.
That is really heavy. So let's pivot to professional services firms, law firms, accounting agencies, architectural firms. What does the gap look like for them?
Well, for professional services, being planned often means the firm holds a committee meeting, they vote on the next managing partner, and they circulate a transition memo. Everyone shakes hands in the boardroom.
Sounds very civilized.
It is. But being prepared means those client relationships we talked about earlier have been methodically stress tested. It means a junior partner is successfully managing top-tier clients, handling severe pushback, and driving the core strategy, all without the senior partner sitting in on the calls to smooth things over.
Let me pause right here and ask you, the listener, to think about your own business or the firm you work for right now. Think about your biggest, most vital, highest-paying clients.
Yeah, picture them right now.
When the sky is falling and they have a massive problem, do they call the firm's main line? Do they reach out to their designated account team? Or do they completely bypass all that structure just to call you directly on your cell phone?
It's the ultimate test.
Be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Because if they bypass the structure to get to you, your firm is not transfer ready.
That cell phone test is the ultimate defining reality check. And once leaders start being honest about it, a very real panic can set in.
Oh, I'm sure.
They realize, hey, I have a bulletproof succession plan, but my business actually has zero capability to survive without my daily intervention.
And this brings up the most terrifying problem for a founder, the blind spot. Because if you are stuck in the planned phase, you likely don't even know how wide the gap is between your perception and reality.
You're completely flying blind.
Right. And we don't want to just admire the problem here. How does a leader practically move from a state of planning to a state of actual, measurable capability?
Well, you start by confronting the ultimate question of readiness. Ask yourself right now, would the business survive if the transition happened tomorrow morning?
Tomorrow morning, wow.
Yeah. If an unexpected health event or an external crisis forced you to step away instantly, Would the company hold together or would it completely fracture? If your answer is, I'm not sure, or it would be absolute chaos, then you have to stop assuming readiness and start aggressively measuring it.
And this is exactly where so many transitions stall out. Leaders know they have a gap, but they just don't know where exactly the foundation is cracking.
Right. They feel it, but they can't see it.
The single best predictor of transition success is accurately measuring that gap. It shouldn't be based on a gut feeling. And this is exactly why Succession Strength developed a framework to actually solve this. They built a suite of incredibly precise 15-minute quick diagnostics.
They are fantastic.
Yeah, these give you a structured readiness report that shows you exactly where you are merely planned and where you urgently need to prepare.
The immense value of measuring the gap with the diagnostic tool is that it completely removes emotion and ego from the boardroom.
Yes.
It gives you objective, quantifiable data. And for those who realize their gap is significant, Succession Strength also offers in-depth assessments and really comprehensive advisory services. They provide the detailed road mapping necessary to systematically build out those 4 pillars we discussed. But the real secret to starting this process is to not get paralyzed by the scale of the work ahead.
Right, because if you tell a founder they have to overhaul their entire operational structure, shift all client trust, and completely rewrite their governance model, they're just going to go back to ignoring the problem. You can't boil the ocean on day one.
Precisely. The single most actionable step you can take today is this. Do not try to overhaul your business this afternoon. Just find the right diagnostic for your specific situation. Whether you are a family business navigating those sibling dynamics, or a professional services firm trying to retain clients, an owner preparing for a lucrative sale, or a retiring leader, just find the right tool and simply measure your current gap. Identify the exact distance between your plan and your true preparation.
Measure the gap. Look, if this deep dive is hitting a little too close to home, if you are realizing that your beautiful legal document might just be a piece of paper, I enthusiastically invite you to follow the Transfer Ready podcast by Succession Strength.
Highly recommend it.
They host incredible, really targeted conversations specifically about the mechanics of preparing a business for succession or sale. You can also visit successionstrength.com or just email them directly at info@successionstrength.com to get started with those diagnostics. Because remember, taking a diagnostic isn't about getting a score or a grade. It's about pinpointing exactly what you need to fix right now, in the calm before the storm, so you don't fail when it actually counts.
To synthesize everything we have covered today, the difference between a transition that thrives and one that spectacularly fails is not a matter of luck.
No, it's not.
It isn't about having a better lawyer or a smarter accountant. It is the hard, measurable, deliberate work of shifting your organization's focus from the who to the how. It is moving from the psychological comfort of planning into the vital, messy work of preparation across leadership transferability, relationship institutionalization, knowledge continuity, and governance independence.
And this framework applies to you no matter where you sit in the organizational chart.
Absolutely.
Whether you are the founder trying to figure out how to step down, the successor trying to earn the authority to step up, or maybe just an employee looking around and wondering if your company is actually going to survive an upcoming buyout. Preparation is everybody's business.
It absolutely is. And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final kind of provocative thought to mull over.
Oh, I'm ready.
We've spent this entire time exploring how to prepare the business to survive without the founder. But consider the flip side of that equation. If you do the work perfectly, if you successfully institutionalize all the client relationships and you flawlessly transfer all the leadership and you document every single piece of operational knowledge, how do you prepare the founder's ego?
Oh.
If a leader has spent 40 years being the indispensable superhero of their company, the one person everyone turns to when the sky is falling, how do they prepare their own identity for a life where they are suddenly entirely unnecessary?
Wow, that is a heavy one. Because building a business that genuinely does not need you is the ultimate mark of success, but it also requires the ultimate letting go of your own identity. So as you look at your own transition roadmap, ask yourself if you're just buying the gym membership to feel good, or if you're actually ready to lift the heavyweights. Stay curious, do the hard work, and get transfer ready. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.